threaten its neighbors, that they must implement the 6-point ceasefire, and that South Ossetia and Abkhazia will never be recognized as independent entities. I think it was a very clear and forceful exchange, but there's a difference. John McCain, and they actually didn't get into this in great depth, John McCain has what is more of a Cold War mindset, the notion that we can go back somehow to the 20th century and be in a entirely adversarial posture with Russia. Barack Obama understands that while we have to stand up and check Russian aggression, and that we need to be stronger in partnership with our allies to push back on Russia, and we also have to have an energy security policy that is of the 21st century, we cannot go back to the Cold War. We actually have national security interests in trying to elicit Russian cooperation on certain issues, and he spoke about non-proliferation and loose nuclear material tonight as a prime example.
Did you find the surge a tactic?
Don't get somebody who has the surge is a tactic. The strategy was to go in and topple Saddam Hussein and invade a country that had nothing to do with 9/11, and it was executed very poorly. It was a failed strategy, and the execution of that strategy was failed. And then 4 years into the war, we attempted the surge. It was a tactical maneuver to deal with a failed problem. And it has had some impact. It has helped to reduce the violence along with other factors. Obviously, a changed counterinsurgency approach, the Sunni awakening, the Shia ceasefire, all of these factors have come together and combined to help reduce the violence, and our troops have done a tremendous job. But remember what the purpose of the surge was. The purpose of the surge was to create the political space for the Iraqis to reconcile and come together, and unfortunately, that progress has not kept up with the progress on the security front.
Did you find that Senator McCain was offensive in some of his questions, some of his remarks? He kept saying Senator Obama doesn't get it. He seemed to be quite rude to him. What was your view on that?
I'll let others judge his demeanor and judge his... I think Senator McCain appeared edgy and aggravated tonight. He did not seem in command. And I think we saw, at least in his facial expressions, flashes of temper.
Can I ask you about this line of not meeting the government of Spain?
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about that?
About
what that means, or what do you...
Well, Senator Obama's view is that Spain is a NATO ally and a partner of the United States, and any president of the United States ought to be happy to sit down with the president or the prime minister of Spain in the White House, without equivocation. And the fact that John McCain hemmed and hawed and then ultimately refused to commit to meet with the prime minister of Spain was bizarre in the extreme. And, you know, it's one thing for them to differ over whether we ought to talk to our adversaries, and they have a strong difference on that, but it's kind of ironic that we're having a difference over whether or not we ought to talk with our allies.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay.
Why do you think there was virtually no mention to Latin America?
Because unfortunately the question didn't come. It was, I was answering this to another gentleman who asked about Africa. You know, it was, for those of us who do foreign policy, it was a bit disappointing that the first 40 minutes of the debate were consumed largely by domestic economic issues. But it's understandable in the current context, and obviously there's a great correlation and interrelationship between what happens internationally and what happens domestically on the economic front. But that meant that there's far fewer opportunities for discussion of many parts of the world. No discussion of Latin America, no discussion of Africa, no discussion of Europe, no discussion of China. You know, a lot of important issues went untapped.
Thank you.
What do you think was the strongest